Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Palantir. The question is, are we at the top? I don't think anybody really knows the exact answer to that question. I happen to think that is not. I'm going to go through my reasoning as to why that is. A lot of people's reasoning in terms of why it is topping is because it's just gone up a lot. That's not exactly a good reason for you to call the top, because that doesn't mean that it's not going to go up a lot further. A lot of people also calling it because it's overbought. On the RSI here, yeah, it did get up to the high 80s, but I've seen plenty of stocks that have gone up to the high 80s that just keeps on going up. A lot of people are based on this being a unreasonable valuation, which, you know, if you're believing this is the face of the stock market that listens to valuation, if you think that there is some rationality to it and you don't think that funds are going to keep chasing something that has a lot of momentum and shut off the brain, then yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe the PE is a little bit too high because there's a lot of valuation expansion that's been happening, taking years of gains ahead of time. None of this means that it's going to stop, right? None of these things mean that it's just going to stop and it's just going to be the top right here. Does it even mean that, are we hitting any major like Fibonacci levels here? Yeah, a little bit, right? The 1.272 here on the log fib here, and if you also look at a linear here, you also may be a little bit over the 1.618, and you might be back testing here a little bit, right? So you're kind of stuck between two different important fib levels, one on the log scale here as resistance, another one here potentially as support. Now, this is a monthly chart, so the month is obviously not done yet. I do think that 1.618 in general should be a pretty decent support level. Do I think it's going to go all the way down to 60? Do I think it's going to go all the way down to 45? Do I think it's going to go all the way down to 36? Do I think it's going to go all the way down to 30? A lot of people also looking at something too. They're looking at the high like this. They think it has to have a higher low, and the higher low has to be potentially, if I can find that volume shelf, there you are. Sorry, I had a little bit of wine tonight. I'm just going to stick with it. A lot of people think that it has to come back down to some of these volume shelves down here below to back test. So it has to go back down to like $40. It doesn't do any of that. Not necessarily. It's creating friction right here. It's creating volume history right here as we speak. And it could just keep on consolidating sideways over here. It doesn't have to come back down, back test anything at all if it doesn't want to. A lot of stocks just keeps on going up without having to do that. Can it do that? Yes, it can. I just think that the momentum is a little bit too strong for it to do that. Bull case. And I've been talking about this for a very long time. I've been talking about this really throughout December. If you actually pay attention and listen to my video, I'm not actually just trying to pump the stock. I'm also trying to tell you about like what the downside risk is for the stock, right? And I've mentioned to you that it's way outside the monthly upper Bollinger Band. When it does that, it has a chance for it to come back and touch the upper Bollinger Band just to make sure that it's not way too overextended. Guess what it did today? It touched the upper Bollinger Band. And guess what happens? I'm not the only person, the only cat, meow meow, that's looking at this. A lot of people are looking at this, and they end up finding support right here at this particular level here, which is the expanded upper Bollinger Band, right? Are we seeing any potential warning sign here on lower Bollinger Band? No, it's still expanding to the downside. This is still a pretty strong parabolic bull trend. Simply coming back and touching the upper Bollinger Band, this is not a bearish thing. This is actually quite bullish, right? If you also look at Ichi, basically you're just holding the Tenkan and Kitchen over here as support. A lot of things are telling me that I don't really necessarily buy into the notion that this has to be the top. With the exception that a lot of people are using a lot of things to say that this could be the top, that there's just no proof, right? There's just no proof. Look at the weekly chart here. Do we have any other strong support here right around this level? I think so. We've been waiting for the weekly Tenkan to catch up, right? The blue line over here to catch up. we've been waiting for this, and the blue line over here is very, very positively spiking upwards, right? I'll tell you what my theory is and what my speculation is in terms of what they're trying to do. My theory is this. My theory is that they want the stock to go higher, but there's too much leverage and they have to deleverage, and it was way too overextended on the technicals, and they have to come back and touch up the Bollinger Band to make sure that it's not way too far overextended so you can go up a lot higher over time, right? It did that, and the reason why it also did that too, I'm also going to pull up the daily chart here as well. It did that, and the reason why they also did that too, you have the daily chart here that also is showing you a lot of confluence. It's got a little bit of a abandoned baby look to it. I don't know, look up what an abandoned baby candle is. That's what it looks like to me. Right at the lower Bollinger Band here on the daily. Looks like this is a very nice doji candle. It could be potentially be a pretty decent reversal spot right here. And that is a lot of confluence, right? It touched the lower Bollinger Band here. It looks like it's finding demand. It's got a candle here. It looks like it could be a little bit of a reversal candle. And on the weekly here too, I've been spotting this thing here for a very long time, because I really thought that price had to wait for the weekly Tenkan to rise up. And it generally on the way up, it tends to kind of want to back test the weekly Tenkan. Sometimes it undershoots it here a little bit and grab liquidity underneath below. But in general, that's a pretty decent area where price would want to gravitate towards if it's a bull trend before it goes up a lot further. That's kind of where it's been touching right here. Now, it kind of went overshoot that here a little more, right? The Tenkan here is $71.66. Looks like on the monthly, it just really wanted to touch the upper Bollinger Band. It did that, right? Looks like on the daily here, it really just wanted to touch the lower Bollinger Band. It did that, right? And then right now, what are things happening right now? Well, it did all those things that it needed to do. And on top of that, it's got a very, very quickly rising Tenkan over here. And this could potentially end up being support. Now, it may not be. If we end up breaking down, it can go down further. But just based on the behavior of the stock, based on the monthly, based on the daily, I'm speculating Friday is going to be a good day. I'm speculating Friday is going to be a good day. And that there is a chance that this Friday could end up closing about $71.66. Speculation. None of these short-term prediction matters. You know, over here, like who would have predicted, like looks like it's going to find support here. Who would have predicted the price is going to go all the way down to 40 before pushing all the way up to like, you know, almost 60, right? There's no way for you to tell for sure in terms of what it does in the short term. But I think in the longer term, this is a bullish thing because the Tenkan is expanding away from the Kijun. It's getting more and more bullish over time. And I think it just needed to backtest a lot of these things here on a daily, weekly, and monthly. That's what I think about Palantir. Now, I still think that this is still trying to find a higher low. A lot of people are calling for a lot lower because even if it goes all the way down a lot further, it could still be a high low. But I think all of those things are just speculation. You have a lot more support down here below. Even the 50s, even like around the high 50s, you have support, right? There's no reason to think that it's going to break down all the way down. There's just no reason. This is a very, very powerful bull trend, right? 20 week, over 50 week, over 100 week, over 200 week. There's just no reason to believe that it has to do a lot of things that they are speculating that this could do. Especially if it's just simply still backtesting the 1.618 foot level over here, right? So 1.618 generally is a pretty important level. It broke for like butter, backtested once here, backtested twice here. There's nothing wrong with that. Can it go all the way down to 61? There's some support there too, right? 55. Again, a ton of support down here below. I'm not even sure if it's going to end up hitting any of these support levels. The thing about it is that you can look at the downside risk, which a lot of people are going to focus on after a big 3 week down like this, right? Where price went all the way from like $85 all the way down to $68. A lot of people look at the portfolio like, oh, I should have sold here. And, like they're not really. If you have sold here, where are you going to buy? Are you going to listen to people like wait for 40s, 50s, 30s? Are you going to buy here? Like let's say you sold here around like 85 and you buy here down 70, 76. I've heard people like, oh, you knew you're going to sell it to 76. Why didn't you just sell it like 85 and buy it at 76? Well, it could go down a lot lower. You would kick yourself for it. And you paid a bunch of taxes already, if you were about down here. So yeah, I'm just going to stay put. I don't really care. The trend's your friend. Tons of support down below. This thing could go a lot higher based on the trend because it's a full bull trend on the weekly. Because on the monthly, the upper bullish trend is still expanding. Low bullish trend is still all the way down to the ground. There's not really any particular reason for me to get worried about it. Anyway, just a quick thought on Palantir that lasted me for about 10 minutes. Tesla. What is going on with Tesla? Let's look at this chart here. Going right off to the monthly chart here. It's basically doing very, very similar thing that the Palantir chart is doing, which basically all it did so far this month is it started out a little bit way outside the upper Bollinger Band here. Wants to go higher, couldn't because it needed a fall of gravity here. So what did it do? Came back, touched the upper Bollinger Band here a little bit, and say, okay, found some solid grounding here. I'm probably going to move up now. Thank you. On the daily chart, I actually like this formation over here, like big giant green candle over here. Have 3 candles, couldn't really even break down below, even though the sentiment is absolutely horrible, right? This is a pretty bullish chart. Do I think these gaps down here are going to get closed? I mean, I don't know, like all these gaps down here, like the people are going to call that they're going to close. All these gaps all the way down here in like the 40s, are these going to close? I mean, I don't know, right? The answer is probably not. And what did Tesla do? Well, it could go down all the way down to the lower Bollinger Band here on the daily. It chose not to. It's just kind of hovering around the zone over here, getting rejected here a little bit by the daily moving 20-day moving average. And that's okay. It's just hovering here, trying to form maybe a little bit of a higher low here before challenging that again. It's flat right now. There's a chance for it to break out and break up back above. We will see, right? On the weekly, it's also going through a very similar thing that Palantir is doing, which is a very quickly rising Tenkan here. Right now it's 398.88. I would not be surprised if this week closes above $398.88. I would not be surprised if that happens. Does it have to go down that much further? Not necessarily. Tons of support down below, right? You have the Tenkan already right up here. There's a potential chance for it to close above that. And you have also the Kijun down here at 334. You have the Bullish support band around the 320s. Just tons of support here down below. I just don't think that it has to go down that much further, though. I think they want to just keep pushing the stock up higher. And I think they're just using this this time here to kind of scare you here a little bit. And to just trying to reset the sentiment here a little bit before it goes up higher is exactly what these moves are supposed to be doing. What did Tesla do here over the last month or so? It got rejected here almost perfectly at the 1.236 log fib level. And it came back down, couldn't break above the all-time high. The second month we're trying. But I like the fact that we're trying to break through the all-time high here. I still think that overall, even if it has to consolidate sideways here a little bit longer potentially, I don't think it has to because it's got a very powerful bull trend here developing. 20 is very, very much positive sloping. Upper bullish trend, lower bullish trend, strongly expanding to upside to downside. Really reminds me of the beginning of this big giant bull market here. Over here, you have COVID that really have messed, a lot of people up here. Regardless, this is still a higher low. It's just back testing the zone over here. Do I think that it has to do the same thing that it did over here? Not necessarily. I think instead of doing this over here, what we did is we have a hard time breaking above the previous all-time high here. It just kind of slice the fruit butter and you have to back test here. We're just kind of trying to break through here. I have a hard time doing it, but we're trying to get taken care of over here before going up further, right? Instead of having to push way up and grab liquidity to the downside. I think it's a very, very impulsive thing that's building up here. Very impulsive thing that's very similar to what's building up here. I think this is more bullish than what is happening over here because you see a little bit of a Bullish band expansion is not really expanding that much, that much impulsively. Here it really is changing the trend very, very powerfully. So yeah, I think Tesla is going to hit some of the upper targets up here above. We'll see what it does, but I'm not really scared about the price action. I don't know if people are really that scared about Tesla anymore. If you are, like, I don't know what to tell you. So Nvidia, what's Nvidia doing? Let's zoom out here on a monthly chart. I like to take a little bit of a closer look here. This is one of those stocks that have already gone through the bullish band expansion and gone up a lot, right? Very similar to a previous cycle. Bullish band expansion has gone up a lot, and you're already starting to have a little bit of bullish band contraction. I still think it's got a big leg up, kind of like it did over here. I still think it's got a big leg up like it did over here, and I think that it's building up for another big leg up like it's going to probably over here. My target's probably somewhere around 350. It can get adjusted, but I think once it hit 350, it's probably going to be like, okay, I'm not wanting to maybe stick around here with Nvidia anymore. I'm a little bit scared. I'm probably gonna like take profits if it gets to 350. I could be wrong. It could just keep on going up, but these things go through cycle, like 1, 2, and 3. I think the cycle probably has another like 6 to 12 months to go. But so far, it is doing some very important thing, right? If you look at again here, look at how beautiful market symmetry is, right? Bounce, bounce, bounce. Once it breaks about an arc like this, it pushes to the next, again, horizontal. We just push for the arc here, so it's completely reasonable to go up to 350, which is again horizontal. You could also end a little bit more premature here around the 200s. It's possible, but that's going to be like the natural order of things unless if something weird happens. I am still pretty bullish on Nvidia, although I think that this is a little bit more of a late cycle thing. I keep talking about this. I think Palantir is mid-cycle. I think Tesla is early cycle, and I think Nvidia is late cycle. Does it look like it wants to keep going higher? Yeah, it does. Every single time when you have the 20-week moving average, kind of consolidating sideways over here a little bit, and then whenever it just kind of dips underneath it, breaks above, back testing it, it just wants to go higher. And when it goes higher, it can do something ridiculous, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks of green, right? It could be just making it looks like up lower, right? It's consolidating sideways over here, kind of like it's been consolidating sideways over here. Finding support here at a rising 20-week moving average, we might be re-accelerating here to the upside, right? So yeah, I'm not really scared about Nvidia here at all. But I do think that we have to take into account that this is an overbought stock with RSI that's been up here around the 80s for a very long time. Whenever RSI sticks around here for about like 2, 3, 4 years, here stick around here for about 2 years, here is stick around here for about a year and a half, right? So that's why I'm thinking maybe another 6 to 12 months. You have usually price going up here, you have bearish divergence here, and it worked out, right? Over here, you have RSI kind of flat and price going up higher, a little bit of relative bearish divergence, and then it worked out, right? Here, we're starting to develop a lot more bearish divergence over here too. So this trend is really, truly exhausting. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to go higher. I still think it's got another leg up higher. So I'm going to ride that leg up and see how it goes. Yeah, it's not going to be one of those that I think is going to go to like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. It's just not. I'm just not seeing it this cycle. So we'll see. Could be wrong though. Thank you for listening to me talking about these 3 stocks. Have a good one. Bye.